Friday, September 5th, 1755.
19th of July, 1754, Friday.
23rd May, 1792, Wednesday. Secretary of State Thomas Jefferson wrote GW about the growing division between himself and Alexander Hamilton on policy including the national debt and possibility of new excise taxes. Jefferson indicated this reflected a North-South political division and beseeched GW to consider a second term as president. North and South will hang together if they have you to hang on.
Well, the basic idea of the day-by-day project is to provide another point of entry to substantive, authoritative information about Washington. The big difference, though, it's going to come in bite-sized amounts and in a way that a lot of people who don't have serious research interests just might want to look just because they're curious to know what George Washington did on their birthday, or what days was George Washington in this location, or was George Washington ever near where I lived. They're going to be able to query the website and find out those kinds of information.
First I go through and I just go ahead and put the date for each entry, and I look up the specific day. Is this a Wednesday or is it a Thursday? Then I find out where George Washington is, and then I go through and I look at the letters. I know who he's writing to or who he's receiving the letter from and where they're writing from. Because usually that has some import on the letter. It's like it was from Gouverneur Morris. It matters if he's in London or if he's in Paris, because he's the minister to Paris, and this is the French Revolution.
Ed Lango, who is the editor-in-chief, asked me a few years ago to develop a proposal for the Jefferson Trust to see if we could secure some funding for a project that would extensively involve undergraduates. The Papers of George Washington has completed roughly 90% of Washington's adult life in terms of thorough, authoritative editing of his papers. So I knew we had a very sound factual base to launch the work.
Mainly, I'm just working from the archive of papers that they currently have, but it's pretty difficult to deal with a day where George Washington didn't write any letters or receive any letters or have any financial statements, and then to have to kind of go into the outside resources like reading the Virginia Gazette. It really creates a better picture of just what the United States was like.
I hit upon the idea of breaking the students into teams, 5 different content teams, focusing on certain portions of Washington's life. I put captains to charge the students, and they would be the first point of contact, and then the captains report to me every month to monitor progress.
Because I am a history major and I'm interested in the colonial period in America, this jumped out at me immediately as fitting every area of interest that I could ever possibly hope for. And I was very interested as well in getting this sort of personal view that you can get from looking at the letters and the papers and even the account books, no matter how intense they may be.
I am the team captain of the technology team, so we're working on making a website to post all of the content from each day of George Washington's life. I really enjoy working with my team and getting to hear all of the ideas that people have for the website, since we do have so much freedom and flexibility with it. And I like getting to learn how to go about designing a website, because I am a cognitive science major and I'm really interested in user experience.
We'd hoped that this would be something people with all levels of interest and at all places around the world would be able to find this information and eventually find even more resources on Washington.
I've really enjoyed that kind of personal touch with someone who is a national symbol, who does embody so many American ideals that we value.
To the present day, the factors that went into making those letters and shaped our nation.